Photography is more than just images, it's history captured in a frame. From innovation and daily life to activism and faith, these timeless photographs preserve moments that shaped our world, telling stories that words alone cannot convey. Let's look into it together. Number 20. The face of history. Portraits are more than just pictures. They're windows into the past that help memories live on in ways that words alone can't. Portrait photography lets us see history through the eyes of the people who lived it. Abraham Lincoln by Alexander Gardner from 1865 is one of the most powerful pictures. This picture was taken not long before he died. It shows a president who is tired of war. His strict demeanor, heavy eyes, and serious face show that he is tired, irritable, and carrying the weight of being a leader. Other pictures of Lincoln show him in a better light, but this one shows how hard it was to lead a divided country through the Civil War. This picture is important because it makes history more relevant to each person. This painting helps us see Lincoln as a person, not just a historical figure, even though we learn a lot about the things he did and said. It busts the myths and shows him as a man carrying the weight of a country that is about to fall apart. Landscape photography shows the natural world in ways that make you think and wonder, just like portraits bring history to life through the faces of people. Number 19. The Earth's painting. Before people became interested in travel photography, early photographers captured the beauty of nature as it was, before it was changed. People were moved by these pictures to care for and protect environments instead of just taking pictures of them. Tim O'Sullivan's painting of the Grand Canyon from 1867 is one of the best examples. Most people in the U.S. had never seen such beautiful nature before. That changed because his picture really showed how beautiful the canyon was. The sharp rock formations, dark shadows, and endless sky made it very clear that nature had made something very impressive. This picture is significant since it altered the perspective of the surroundings for people. When landscapes were first seen, most people did so through paintings, which often made them look more beautiful than they would have otherwise. It was clear that O'Sullivan's art showed the Grand Canyon as it really was. Like other early landscape photographers, he made a very important contribution to the movement to protect the environment. People who saw these pictures realized how important it is to protect such beautiful natural areas. This led to the creation of national parks as well. Still life photography focuses on small, everyday events that have big effects on history. Landscape photography, on the other hand, shows how beautiful nature is. Number 18. Frozen moments. Still life photography turns everyday things into artifacts from the past. A simple counter, a set of dishes, or an old menu may not seem important at first glance, but when photographed, these everyday things become historical artifacts. 1935 snapshot taken by Walker Evans. One such a great example is the lunch counter. At first glance, it looks like a simple picture of the counter in a restaurant, but a closer look shows a more complex story. The worn-out counter, simple plates, and faded menu all show how things really were during the Great Depression. The fact that the counter is empty suggests that things are calm during a tough time, while the low price of the dinner suggests that money problems are present. This picture is important because it shows parts of history that most books don't talk about. It shows the little things like what people ate, how public spaces were used, and the culture of the time. Years later, things that seemed normal at the time become important records of human history. Documentary photography shows history as it really is, while still life photography focuses on the quiet, everyday parts of history. Some photos don't just capture history, they shape it. Documentary photography has given a voice to the forgotten and the oppressed. Number 17. The silent witness. The most powerful pictures ever taken are the ones that show life as it really is. Documentary photography shows real people and real problems. This keeps stories alive that might be lost otherwise. Dorothea Lange's 1936 picture Migrant Mother is one of the best known. This creepy picture from the Great Depression shows a mother with her children. Her kids cover their faces because she looks worried, and the clothes she wears are old. That one frame shows the most important historical events of the time. The picture is strong and moves you. Everything changed when I saw this picture. It led to real change instead of just keeping track of suffering. As soon as people saw how much this mother was suffering, they couldn't ignore the truth of poverty. They used the picture to show how photography could change society and get the government to help families who are struggling. Documentary photography is very important because it gives people who can't speak a chance to say what they want to say. In terms of history, it doesn't lie or cover up the truth. Instead, it shows life as it really was, with all of its ups and downs. Without these pictures, many of the most important events in history would be lost. They help us understand that photography is both art and a way to tell the truth. The events that have been frozen in time through still life, landscape, portrait, or documentary photography help us understand the world we knew better before. Number 16. Threads of time. Fashion is more than just a way to express yourself. It shows how societies have changed over time. People's clothes show the values, problems, and successes of the time they lived in. Trends show something even though they only last for a short time. Harper's Bazaar's 1920s fashion trends are a great example of this. With short, bobbed hair, knee-length dresses, and a rebellious attitude, these pictures show the rise of the flapper look. This change in fashion was more of a statement of independence than a way to look better. Women wanted to reject conventional roles following World War I, and their attire reflected that. Long skirts and corsets that were too tight were things of the past. So fashion embraced movement, life, and a new way of living. Fashion photography is pretty important because it records historical events. The clear lines of the 1990s, the bright colors of the 1980s, and the style of the 1950s after the war all tell us something about the world at those times. In the same way that fashion photos tell stories, sports photos record events of glory, struggle, and unforgettable wins. Number 15. The thrill of victory. Some of the most interesting events in history have happened in sports venues. Athletes can show their joy, stubbornness, or even sadness in just one picture. Fans can remember the most important events from the past through these pictures. This picture of Babe Ruth in the 1920s is one of the most famous in sports history. With his straight back and sure look, the picture captures a moment that defines the best years of baseball. Babe Ruth wasn't just a player. He was a sign of hope and excitement during a time of change. His huge home runs made him famous, and pictures of them will help future generations remember him. War photography records a very different kind of history, one that is full of bravery, sacrifice, and strong emotions. Sports photography, on the other hand, records victories. Number 14. Notes of battle. War photography is raw and powerful. It shows the truth about war, including the bravery, the fear, and the costs of conflict. Instead of just telling stories, these pictures make sure that history never fades. Most people know Joe Rosenthal for his 1945 war movie Raising the Flag on Iwo Jima. Right away, 6 U.S. Marines raising the American flag on the battlefield came to stand for success and determination. It started out as a picture and turned into a statement of the American will during the Second World War. Photographs of war show suffering, while photographs of travel show adventure, exploration, and the beauty of the world. Some journeys are remembered through stories, others are immortalized in photographs. Travel photography shaped how the world saw distant lands. Number 13. Wanderlust in focus. Picture books were the only way people could see faraway places before the internet and travel blogs. Travel photography sparked interest, which led to more study. It made the Earth look bigger and more connected at the same time. Picture of the Hindenburg before it crashed in 1937 are an interesting example. At that time, this huge airship meant high-class travel. When I saw pictures of it flying, I thought of a time when flying was perfect and high-tech. Things went badly, though, and the Hindenburg caught fire while landing. That's when travel photography became more important. Because it caught history as it happened, this is the case. The shocking pictures of the airship on fire changed the way people fly forever. Now, airships are less rare and more common. Travel photography is pretty important because it shows both beauty and change. From busy city streets to old ruin sites, these pictures show how things were in the past. They make us think of lost places, how society has changed over time, and how important it is to ask questions. This is similar to how old postcards show how people lived, traveled, and interacted with each other all over the world. There's more to photography than just art here. There are pictures of people, places, things that don't move, fashion, sports, war, and travel. Link the present to the past, and then remember that history isn't just what we learn in school. One picture can help us understand, feel, and see something. Number 12. Tomorrow Towers. Photography has been very important for keeping records of how people's ideas have changed over time, especially in the field of architecture. Before skyscrapers became popular, photographers took pictures of the rise of big buildings to show how plans turned into real buildings. Many people know about this from the time the Empire State Building was being built from 1930 to 1931. At the time, it was the world's tallest building and a real engineering marvel. Old pictures from this time show people balancing without safety harnesses on steel beams hundreds of feet in the air. These pictures are important because they show how cities have changed over time. These pictures show a time when skyscrapers were a bold new idea that changed work and daily life. Without these pictures, we wouldn't fully understand how hard it is to build the tall buildings that now define our skylines. Early wildlife photography preserved something even older, the beauty of nature as it was before it was changed, in the same way that early architecture photography caught cities growing. Number 11. Wild Heart. People who wanted to take pictures of animals in their natural environment worked non-stop for a long time, before cameras with lots of power and zoom lenses. People were able to get a good look at animals in places they might not have seen in real life when they first saw these pictures. William Henry Jackson's 1871 painting of Yellowstone is one of his most important works. At that time, not many Americans knew about this big wilderness. His pictures changed that by showing geysers, waterfalls, and bison that were roaming. They showed that places like Yellowstone needed to be protected, not just look nice. Many of these pictures helped the government decide that Yellowstone should be the first national park. It was made in 1872. These pictures are important because they started the movement to protect the environment. People relied on drawings or written descriptions of animals before photography, which didn't always show the truth. Jackson's pictures showed nature just the way it was, wild, untamed, and stunning. They made people think about what they might be losing by living in cities and industries. Some photographers focused on the energy of city life, which is also very moving, while others captured the natural beauty that hasn't been changed. Number 10. City Pulse. Cities have always had a lot going on. Lights flashing, people running through the streets, and traffic moving. Early photographs of cities caught this energy and showed how city life changed over time. Alfred Stieglitz was one of the first people to take pictures of cities. In the early 1900s, he took pictures of New York City, which was stunningly beautiful. His pictures showed a lot of different things, from fog-covered tall buildings to crowded streets. Not only did they record images, but also the feeling of a place that was changing quickly. Everyday life was changing because of new technology. Horse-drawn carriages and cars shared the roads. It's important to look at these pictures because they show how modern cities grew. They show how small towns grew into thriving hubs of culture and creativity. They also show us how the past and present are different, which makes us think about how quickly things change in cities. Life in the country stayed connected to history, while cities grew very quickly. Photography did a lot to help keep the hard parts and beautiful parts of life outside of cities alive. Number 9. Fields of Memory. Many small towns across the country clung to a way of life that went back hundreds of years, even as cities grew. Old pictures of these towns helped keep their stories alive before people forgot about them. In the 1930s, Walker Evans took some of the most striking pictures of life in the country. These pictures show American farms and small towns. In his writings, He showed how hard it was for farming families during the Great Depression, with their worn-out faces, broken-down barns, and endless fields that went on forever. These pictures show a way of life that isn't just poor, but also based on hard work and determination. These pictures are important because they bring attention to areas that history has missed in the past. They remind us of the close connection people have with the land, which has shaped traditions, businesses, and economies. Photography has shown every side of history, from big cities to untouched wilderness, from busy streets to quiet farms. Every picture keeps events alive that would have been lost if a story had been told. Behind every glamorous portrait lies a deeper story. Hollywood's vintage photographs reveal the beauty, mystery, and loneliness of fame. Number 8. Stars in sepia. During Hollywood's golden age, there was glitz, mystery, and well-made characters. Before digital media, photographers helped turn actors into legends, which changed how people saw the world's most famous people. Marilyn Monroe portraits by George Barris from 1953 are one of the most well-known examples. Because these pictures did a great job of showing her beauty, charm, and vulnerability, she became a timeless symbol of Hollywood's mystery. But they also showed off the two-edged sword of fame. Monroe, who was loved by millions, had to deal with the pressures of being a star behind the scenes. These pictures are important because they show how magical old Hollywood was. While celebrity photography focused on famous people, another type of photography looked at people whose faces told just as important stories but never made the news. Number 7. Faces unnamed. Not every old picture shows a famous person. A lot of the most interesting pictures are of regular people frozen in time, which keeps stories alive that might have been lost otherwise. These people are not known to me. The Humanity in Black and White series is a great example of this. These anonymous portraits of people from the early 1900s show emotions like happiness, loss, hope, and strength. Every face, whether it's a worker unwinding after a long day or a kid playing in the street, shows something about life at that time. These pictures are important because they remind us that we are all human. These pictures show that history is made up of everyday people, not just famous people and world leaders. Each face represents a moment that would have been lost without photography. Others record the turning points in history, the events that changed the world right away, just like these pictures keep personal stories alive. Number 6. Time-stamped. Not just pictures. Some pictures are like time capsules that keep the most important events in history alive for future generations. One of the best known is The Kiss on VJ Day, 1945, which shows a sailor hugging a nurse in Times Square to celebrate the end of World War II. After years of pain, this picture showed how happy and relieved a whole country was. It came to stand for success, love, and the fact that all people go through the same things, whether they are happy or sad. These pictures are important because they give history a face. They make things that happened a long time ago more real and connect us to how people who were there felt. They remind us that history is more than just facts and dates. It's made up of real people and events. Photography also records something just as important: the quiet, everyday lives of regular people. Number 5. Life's routine. History sometimes focuses on big events, but photography finds beauty in the little things that happen every day. The little, unimportant things that happen every day help to define us, even though we don't always notice them. In the 1930s, Brassai took pictures of Times Square that showed people walking around in the rain, couples having a quiet conversation, and shop workers closing up. These pictures don't show events that will change the world, but they do show the habits, problems, and joys of a generation. Just as everyday life is what drives society, photography has been an important way to record creative expression. Number 4. Soul on film. Art and photography have always been connected because cameras record the creative process and the feelings that go into works of art. The 1937 picture of Pablo Picasso working on Guernica, his powerful anti-war masterpiece, is a striking example. He is in the middle of working on the picture, surrounded by his careful but shaky brushwork. This moment, frozen in time, shows the pure passion that went into making one of the most important paintings ever. These pictures are important because they show the power of art. They show that creativity isn't just the end result, but also the passion, struggle, and resilience that went into making it. But even though photography is an art form, it has been very useful for showing how other arts affect society. Photography has captured another important part of human progress: science and technology. Art, on the other hand, captures feelings. Number 3. Gears of progress. Innovation has always pushed people forward, and photography has been a key part of documenting the discoveries that have changed the world. Alexander Graham Bell's picture of his early telephone, taken in 1876, is one of the first ones. It was a big deal to talk to someone far away at the time. A thought and a historical event were caught in that picture. Communication would never be the same after that. These pictures are important because they show important turning points in human history. In the same way that science has changed the way we live, photographs have kept alive another very personal part of human life: faith. Number 2. Faith in frame. Photography has been religiously popular for thousands of years and has shown how people are spiritually active all over the world. Pictures of Mecca pilgrimages from the early 1900s are a striking example. In these pictures, you can see thousands of people walking their holy path. Their faith doesn't waver, even though it's hard in the desert. These kinds of pictures show traditions that have been passed down for many years. They are important because they connect faith to history and culture. They show how real-life experiences shape communities and help people find their way, turning ideas into beliefs. These pictures make us think about how important loyalty is and how religion has played a role in the history of people. Photographs have shown that activism is also a strong force, just like faith has made people stick to their beliefs. Number 1. Voices rising. Photography has long been used to bring about change. It records protests and acts of resistance that help shape history. One example from the past is the suffragette march pictures from the early 1900s. These pictures show women carrying signs and standing up for their right to vote, even when they are met with opposition. At the time, their movement caused a lot of disagreement, but photography helped bring attention to their fight. These pictures are important because they show the fight for justice. As they remind us, people have to stand up for us to move forward. It doesn't just happen. Images of protests, from the civil rights marches of the 1960s to the current ones, still motivate young people to keep calling for change. All kinds of photography show what life has been like throughout history. Photographs are a way to remember the past, record struggles, or celebrate successes. Each one is a window into a moment that could have been lost otherwise. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.